I'd been in Switzerland for a few months, staying with my Swiss boyfriend, Christian. I had met him while living in Mexico the previous year, had come to visit him and ended up staying. I loved Christian, despite the fact that he barely spoke English and I spoke no German, but I only tolerated Switzerland. I had a hard time with the cold and could only eat so much cheese. I missed Mexican food so much that I learned how to make flour tortillas from a recipe on the internet. My tortillas were kind of thick and never quite round, but all that mattered was that they tasted like a 2 a.m. burrito run. Christian bragged to his family that I was making authentic Mexican food for him. His mother, a very proper Swiss German, insisted I make them a real Mexican Christmas dinner, that I share traditions from my people, and that she in turn would have something authentically Swiss for me. I imagined strudel or schnitzel with noodles, and I would make bean burritos. I had never had an authentic Mexican Christmas dinners in a atole chomporado. My mom was Puerto Rican, and my Mexican father didn't really cook. But the real issue was that I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness and was forbidden to take part of any Christmas celebrations. As a child, when my elementary school classmates made Santa Clauses with cotton ball beards and sang carols, I sat out in the back of the class doing extra homework, confident they were all gonna die an agonizing death in the apocalypse, and I was gonna live forever. Sometimes on Christmas Day, my family went to Disneyland with the other Jehovah's Witnesses, Jews, and atheists. Since my Jehovah's Witness upbringing pretty much negated any semblance of Mexican holiday authenticity, I resorted to a fail-safe cross-cultural compromise. I brought a bottle of tequila. When Christian and I arrived at his mother's house on Christmas Day, I set up in the kitchen and began to roll out oblong and slightly thick tortillas. Christian's mother made an excited announcement in German. "Nay!" Christian pleaded with his mother in German, and she shushed him. Their tone needed no translating. "What is it?" I asked. "It's your Swiss surprise," she said. "It's coming after dinner." I was intrigued but had bean burritos to make. Dinner was interesting. My thick tortillas hemorrhaged beans and guacamole whenever we tried to roll them up all the way, but it didn't really matter since the Swiss family insisted on eating them with forks and knives. I insisted everyone drink tequila. After dinner, we sat on black leather sofas in the white modern living room and were chatting when the doorbell rang. "Your Christmas surprise is here!" Christian's mother went to the door, and a family of 4 walked in. A mother, father, and 2 teenage children who didn't look very happy. The mother, a short woman with a round, cheerful face and rosy cheeks, approached me. "I am Brigitte," she said a little too eagerly, "and I am your surprise." I smiled nervously. I had no idea what kind of surprise a middle-aged woman with a bowl haircut and surly children could provide. We gathered in the modern living room and poured out enough tequila shots to go around. I tried to ask Christian why Brigitte was my surprise when she cleared her throat and fixed her eyes on me. Everyone went silent. She opened her mouth and she let out what sounded like the mating howl of the Yeti. She was a yodeler. It was nothing like the sound of music. Yodeling developed in the Swiss Alps as a method of communication between different mountaintops. It was loud and long. After Brigitte finished, she looked at me expectantly, so I clapped. She lit up and said, "Oh, you like it?" She drank her tequila down quickly. I picked up the bottle and poured her another. She yodeled another song. When she finished, I poured her another shot and another for myself. After a few songs, Her eyes began to redden, and she began to punctuate the pauses with emotional declarations in German. Ich liebe dich. She kept looking at her daughter and smiling sadly. I didn't understand a word she said, but whatever it was, her daughter was trying to meld herself into the sofa with mortification. After one of the songs, Brigitta began to cry. Her husband stood up, faced red, and excused himself to leave. His kids followed, but to the astonishment of everyone there, Brigitta insisted on staying. The rest of us were held hostage by my drunk Christmas gift. Her yodeling eventually gave way to sad, non-holiday songs that sounded like they should have been sung in bars by white-bearded men or sailors. We sat and listened with increasing awkwardness, attempting small talk and exchanging desperate looks. Christian's mom was beside herself and kept putting her head in her hands. Finally, to the relief of everyone in attendance, Brigitta let out a final sob and sat down heavily on the couch. A couple of moments later, her head lolled back on the cushion and her body slumped slightly to one side. She passed out. The rest of us sat quietly for a few minutes. I volunteered to wash the dishes. The offer shook Christian's mother out of her embarrassed daze. She said, "We didn't have to do dishes. It was late. We should just go home." She ushered us out into the cold Swiss evening, apologizing how my authentic Swiss surprise turned out. In the distance, the Alps stood stoic and yodelerless. I told her not to worry, that I loved it. I told her that at home, at our family parties, we also had the cultural equivalent of yodelers who got drunk and stayed too long. I promised her when she came to visit me in California, I would make sure to hire a mariachi band. Thank you.